Hi, hola, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Lise, and this is part 2 of my OC lore. So if you haven't seen part 1, it's not really affecting you, but I do recommend going to go watch it after this video. Another thing, I realized that I wasn't being like super detailed in the lore for the last video, even though it wasn't really that much to really talk about in the lore. But I'm gonna try and be a little bit more detailed for the rest of the videos from now on, because someone in the comments was like, hey, you didn't really describe this, and I was like, you know what, good point. So shout out to that person, you know who you are. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about Alice. Before I talk about Alice, I'm gonna talk about what species she is. So Alex who? So Alice is a nilx. A nilx is something else that I made up. Basically, they're just a bunch of hybrids. So if you're a nilx, you can be half dragon, half giant. You can be half human, half gnome, half fairy. You can really be anything for real if you're a nilx. But Alice, she is part fairy, part human, and she is 906 years old, and her birthday is November 9th. So for her personality, she tries to portray herself as this very calm, like have it all together individual, and she's really not. Like she tries to be like, very confident and whatever. It's really only so people don't worry about her because she hates people worrying about her. But she does have like mild anxiety, and she's very paranoid, and she overthinks, and she always is like, I may not be strong enough to achieve my goals and protect everybody. So for her likes, she loves music. She also loves books and reading, and she loves making medicines and herbs and antidotes and all kinds of that stuff. She's also very organized. She loves planning events and like parties and gatherings and get-togethers for everybody. She loves having everybody together. She's very motherly. She loves all that stuff. Everybody in the village that she lives in, because she's a co-founder of a village, I didn't mention that. Everybody sees her as like a mother figure, or like a big sister, or just like a person a role model. So her favorite color is pastel pink and light pinks. She loves different shades of pink too, but majority of it is light pink. And for her dislikes, she doesn't like the demons that are roaming around the earth and the monsters and different stuff. And she also doesn't like her father, which you'll find out about later. I also don't like that man, and I made him up, and I don't like him. Okay, chat. Her powers, they're a little broken, not gonna lie. But like, what's having OC lore and having a person, people with powers, and at least one or two of them are not broken, you know? Like, you're either gonna have an extremely overpowered person, or you're gonna have somebody with crazy plot armor. So for her powers, the first one I call domains because they're like domains. Okay, so imagine kind of like domain expansion in Jujutsu Kaisen, except like you don't have to call it out and it doesn't like take over in the room. Like it's just kind of like a space that exists. So the first domain that she has three. The first one is called windows, which are just like windows into the future. Okay, so the best way to describe it is like, for those of you who've seen Miraculous, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Like there's like a white space, and there's like the little like holes where you can see like each event that's gonna happen in the future. That's kind of what Windows looks like. Like Bunnix from Miraculous, the burrow, that's what it's called. The burrow in there. That's kind of what Windows looks like. Except hers aren't just circles. Hers are like different shapes. And if the event is good, it might be like a yellow circle or something. If the event is bad, it might be like a red triangle. Or if it's like neutral, or like it's not really like good or bad, it's just like, oh, okay. It might be like an orange diamond or something. It's just different shapes depending on how the outcome is. But she doesn't really go in that one because she doesn't want to know what happens in the future. She just wants the future to happen. The next one she has is called Nightmare. This one's really bad. Basically, whoever is sent to this domain, all of their worst nightmares come to life. And like in there, seconds are minutes, minutes are hours, hours are days, etc. You might feel like you've been in there for an eternity when you've only been in there for like a day. Now, she doesn't go in this domain either because she's like, oh, that's really bad. I don't want to go in there. I don't want to see people, being tortured. But, sometimes you may have to put people in there because they're bad people. So the last domain she has is called storage room. Now, she does use this one. This one's very useful. Like the name says, it's a storage room. She can store stuff she finds along the way whenever she's out. She stores her weapons in there. She stores all kinds of stuff in there. And in that domain, there's a little guy, little creature. His name is Nori. Nori keeps storage room organized. He keeps track of what's in there. He, does inventory. He also makes Alice her weapons. And those weapons cannot be destroyed by any human. Doesn't matter what the human does, can't be destroyed. Alice can destroy them. Nori can destroy them. Other species will destroy them, but they'll have a hard time. But no matter what a human does, a human can't destroy the weapon. Now, Alice does visit storage room from time to time to keep Nori company because his mentality is like a child. So he's basically a child even though he's like 1,000 years old or something. And she might bring him like stuff from the village bakery or little human trinkets, which is what he calls them, which are just, little things. He loves to collect things. He has his own little area and storage room where he keeps his collection of human stuff. So with these domains, she can't create anything in them. She can only control what's already there. So with Nori, he was already there. It came with storage room. It was like a 2-in-1 deal type thing. She can't make another friend for Nori. It's just what's already there. So for her second power, it's elemental control. So she basically can control all the elements like the Avatar. Okay, so now some random Alice facts. She loves music, and she can sing and play the mandolin. She also opened a pharmacy and an infirmary so that she can, help heal people and do what she loves at the same time. And she also memorized everybody's allergies. So she knows okay, I can put this in this medicine for this person, but I can't put that because, gonna make their condition worse. And also when she's nervous or anxious, she'll tend to practice her aim and throw knives or darts or shuriken or whatever at trees, and she's made targets around the woods. She'll just practice her aim. Okay, chat, so her lore is kind of long, I'm not gonna lie, so buckle up. So Alice's mother, we're gonna call her Melissa for right now, because I have not thought of an official name for this lady. So Melissa, Alice's mother, she's a very powerful fairy. This is why Alice has the power she does, because of Melissa. And Melissa lives in this village, and she is the daughter of the village chief. Now, the village that she lives in, it's a mother village. So everybody that needs resources from other villages or natural resources or supplies, whatever the case may be, it's most likely coming from that village. Now, Alice's father, Liam, he lives in a neighboring village. Now, this village that he lives in isn't small, but it isn't as big as the village Melissa lives in. I don't have a name for it yet. We'll figure it out later. So Liam knows about Melissa and how powerful she is. She's in the military. She stopped people. Imagine how David in the Bible was fighting. That was kind of Melissa for you. And they also had a good military and all this stuff. And Liam was
I want to run that village. I want to be in charge of that village. Sole ruler, me.
And the way that Melissa's village works, Liam is thinking, oh, he's gonna go in here and marry her and become the next chief, right? No, that's not how Melissa's village works. So let's say because Melissa is the next person in line technically to become chief, she could become chief by herself. Men and women have run this village for multiple years. So if Melissa got married, basically she'd be a co-founder or a co-chief with the husband. The husband does not take over the women. They both run it equally, basically. So Liam went over to Melissa's village and was
hey, I want to marry your daughter.
And the village chief was
well, I'm not just gonna let you marry my daughter just because you want to marry her. You gotta prove yourself.
So Liam has to go through all of these tests, and I'm talking about life or death type tests, fighting this giant in a gladiator arena, either until he taps out or he dies. Liam ends up killing the guy. He also has to do stuff like going through a fiery maze, and he has a time limit, which is like 24 hours or something. If he makes it out alive, you pass. You're good. So he goes through like all these different types of challenges that take like a week to complete, and he completes them. So he gets Melissa's hand in marriage, and he wasn't ugly, so that's also a pat. That's also like a plus for Melissa. So they get married. A few years down the line, Melissa's starting to see Liam's true colors. He's an evil man. Evil man. Evil. And she realizes, like, I shouldn't have married this man. Now, behind the scenes, Liam puts this curse on Melissa. A friend helped me come up with the name because I couldn't come up with the name, so shout out to that friend. So, the name we came up with was the Liberty virus. In French, that means freedom, which is super ironic because it's not freedom at all. It's like literally like kind of locks you down. So Melissa's like not able to use her powers anymore because she gets very sick from this curse and it makes her very weak. And a couple years later, she gives birth to Alice, and basically Melissa passes away from this curse that Liam put on her. Everybody thinks it was from a sickness that she had, not a sickness. It was Liam. So Liam also puts this same curse, the Liberty curse, on Alice. So Alice gets sick, and basically she cannot use her power. She doesn't even know she has power. She thinks she's powerless. So growing up in this estate, because Alice isn't allowed to leave, she has to stay in the estate at all times, watched at all times. So growing up, she does have friends. She has Damien, which is the son of the person in charge of the Demon Elimination Unit, the DEU. And there's a DEU because there's demons and monsters roaming around, and somebody had to kill them. The DEU, that's their job. So Damien is the son of the person in charge of that, and the person in charge of that is Liam's friend, aka now the village chief. So Damien is there, Alice is, their friends. And they also have a friend named Carlos. Carlos is the son of a worker that's there. His mother works in the estate. So the three of them grow up together. They're really close. Carlos is like a sibling to Alice and Damien. Damien and Alice, they grow up and they, fall in love. They date, all that stuff. Now, Damien, he grows up and he's a soldier in the DEU now. Very good soldier. He's very good at what he does. He's like one of the top soldiers. Carlos becomes like Alice's royal advisor. And because Alice, that was the only person that she felt she could trust in the entire estate. So Liam, because he's a village chief, he wants his military to be stronger, and knowing that the village next to them, the village over, has a good military. Even though their village has a really good military, he's like,
no, I want a better military.
Because he is selfish. So to combine the two villages, he's like, the best way to do that is through marriage. So he's like,
Alice, you're gonna marry the son of the village chief from the neighboring village.
Alice is like, no, because I love Damien. And Liam is like,
no, you're banned from dating him.
But Alice and Damien still date anyway because they don't care. So Damien is called into the chief's office. Damien walks in. He's like, hey, sir, is there a problem? What's up? Because you only get called into the chief's office or room if something's like serious. And the chief is like,
yeah, I'm raising your quota.
So the soldiers in the DEU all have a quota. In like a certain amount of time, they have to kill a certain amount of demons and monsters. And Damien's quota is pretty high because he's pretty good at what he does. So raising it would be quite an issue. And if you don't meet your quota, you're executed. That was a law that Liam instilled. Why? You're gonna find out in a little bit. So Damien is like, why are you raising my quota? My quota's already pretty high. And he's like,
well, you're pretty good at what you do, right? So, you might need a little bit more of a challenge. And, I also told you to not be with my daughter. So, yeah, this is kind of your punishment.
So, Alice is not home when all this is happening, right? She's away visiting Eric, which is the guy that she's supposed to marry, if I didn't say that already. And they meet every so often, to get to know each other or whatever. Alice isn't really studying him because he just talks about how much money he got and all the stuff he has and whatever. He's just like a selfish prick that only cares about himself. So Damien does not make quota. So he's getting executed in the next couple of days. Alice comes home Carlos is running up to her and he's like, "Hey, so Damien didn't make quota." And Alice is very confused because Damien always makes quota, and she's like, "Hey, what are you talking about? Damien always makes quota. Why didn't he make quota this time?" And Carlos says like, "Yeah, so your father kind of raised Damien's quota, so he's kind of cooked." So Alice is heated because of this, and she runs over to her father and is like, "Why did you raise his quota?" And Liam was like,
Well, I have plans, and your little boyfriend is kind of in the way of my plans, so he had to go.
and Alice goes off. And the whole conversation was basically like, "Well, if you want Eric so bad, you marry him yourself." And she walks out. And she's very hesitant about going to this execution because executions in the village were like big things, like they were held in this like big gladiator arena. And Alice never went to them because she's like, "Well, this is wrong, because why does a soldier get killed if they don't meet the quota, right?" But this is Damien. This is her boyfriend right here. So she's like, "Well, I guess I have to go because this may be my last time seeing bro, right?" So, day of execution comes. Alice is very sad. She's devastated. And she's still hesitant to go, but she goes anyway to see Damien. And, I'm gonna give you kind of a rundown of what the stadium looks like, right? So, Alice and her father are sitting on a balcony at the top. People are kind of around them. Like, in a gladiator arena, people sit like around. And in the middle, it's like dirt and whatever in there. The person that's getting executed would be sitting on like a white sheet, and they'd have chains on their hands and feet connecting them to the ground so they can't get up and run away. And there's typically like a person with a sword that would come and like ching their head. So Alice, she's watching Damien down below. She's like super heated. Like she's really heated. And the thing starts, everybody's like, "Yeah, yeah, kill him, the demons, whatever." They're rooting for the person that didn't kill enough demons to get killed. And I would be sitting there like, well, if you want the demons to be gone, you go out there and kill them and you see how hard this job is, right? Damien's sitting there waiting. Then the guy with the sword comes. He has it like up, ready to ching, right? Liam is like, "Well,"
Damien, any last words?
Damien looks up at Alice and he's just like, "I love you." That was his last words, looking at Alice. Alice did not look at Damien after that because she didn't want to see his head get cut off, right? Alice did not come out of her room for like 3 days. On the day she decides to come out, because Carlos is like, "Hey, you need to come out, you need to eat, you can't, I know it's sad, I'm sad too, I lost my best friend, but you can't stay in here forever, it's not good for your mental health." So Alice comes out, and she decides to just wander around the estate just to, walk around, try and get her mind off of everything. And she hears some of the like soldiers and like guards talking, and they're like, "Hey, the chief wants the body, meat and skin off the bones." Alice is just standing there like what? Like what? Like, why does my father want the meat skinned off the bones, right? So, she decides to follow them, figure out what they're doing. She follows them, and they bring the chief the meat in the bag. They walk in his room, close the door. Alice is just like, she puts two and two together. She's like, "Is my father eating the people he executes? Is this why he's executing so many people?" So then Alice is like, "But only the monsters and demons, they're the only ones that eat people." So then Alice puts another two and two together, and she's like, "Is my father a demon or monster?" So then Alice is like, "I'm not sticking around to find out." So she runs away because she's scared for her life. She runs into the woods where she sees a cabin after like running. Like she's running for like 2 days. And she knocks on the door of this cabin hoping there's somebody in there that can help her. And the person that opens the door is this purpled hair short girl. Not super short, not shorter, not too much shorter than Alice, but she's pretty short. She has a like small knife towards Alice's like throat or like neck area, and she's like, "Are you a demon?" And Alice has her hands up, like in surrender, like, "No, I'm not a demon. I'm just a person that came looking for help." So, purple hair girl literally takes her hand, cuts like a small slit in her hand, smells the blood. She's like, "Oh, you're good. Come in. I will help you." So, purple hair girl, she's like, "By the way, my name is Cassie." Alice. They introduce each other, right? And then, Alice kind of tells her what happens. Cassie gives her some water and like something to eat. And Cassie, after hearing the whole story, is like, "Wow, that is a lot that happened." So, after that, Alice stays with Cassie for a while. She learns how to hunt, how to fend for herself, how to kill demons in the forest, because if you don't know how to kill demons, you're cooked. You're good as dead. So, then, while being with Cassie, Cassie does have powers. I will explain those in a little bit. Cassie kind of senses, like, "Hey, do you have powers?" Like, Alice is like, "No, I've never had powers, like, ever." And Cassie realizes that Alice has like this seal type thing on her from the Liberty Curse that Liam put on her, right? So Cassie kind of removes the seal. Alice realizes she has powers. Cassie kind of helps her control those powers. Alice is now decently good at controlling her powers after a hot minute. Like, it took them a while. Years. So after years of like being in the forest and the woods or whatever, they end up like while trying to hunt or look for stuff, they find this like ruined, messed up village. And Cassie and Alice are like, "Wow, this village is kinda, it's pretty big. It could be useful." So they kind of like clean it up using their powers and whatever. Now the village is rebuilt. And that village is now used for refugees. People have come, they found the village, and, Cassie and Alice like settled them in, gave them a place to stay, feed them, whatever. People can work there, make money, all kinds of stuff. Like, they're living life to the best of their abilities. It's kind of like a small city for the most part. So for Cassie, her like small little backstory and her powers and whatever. So Cassie lived in a village of like fairies and some other species, but it was majority fairies. Cassie is a really powerful fairy. Her powers are based off of technology. She's heavily inspired by Techna from Winx Club, if you haven't peeped that yet. But yeah, she has like technology powers. She can make like screens and different stuff. Her powers kind of sort of look like this. Like, this is a little bit of what her powers do. I didn't really know how to explain that. But with her powers, she's pretty powerful. She can like hack into stuff without using computers and stuff. She can fix stuff. It's basically all technology based, and that helped a lot with, building up the village and, electricity and all that stuff. And utilities too. That helps a lot with that too. So, in this village where Cassie lived, her village got burnt down by a demon, but she actually wasn't there. She came back home after like traveling for what, I don't really know. She was traveling and she comes back and sees like a demon like rampaging in her village, and everybody in that village is gone, gets burned down. She's devastated, but she runs away and she lives in this cabin for years by herself. That's when Alice came along, and all that stuff happened. Okay, so now here's Alice's voice claim and what I think she sounds like. If y'all do want to see like Cassie or Damien or Carlos's voice claim, let me know and I will make that happen. So anyway, Alice's voice claim.
Welcome, weary traveler from afar. Peace and good health should be enjoyed by all. If I can provide everyone with a life such as this, I will be content. I will always seek to protect the things that are most important, no matter what it takes. Stay warm, or you'll catch a cold. The thunder rumbles. Does it scare you? I am right by your side. But if you're still nervous, just take my hand. Yes, it's time to rest. You should sleep. Me? It's still much too early. I must keep watch, for your sake. You will always be an honored guest of Aru Village. No matter the day or time of your visit, Aru Village welcomes you with open arms. I swore to protect the village, and I will do it. I do love spending time in Aru Village, but each day I spend here is also a reminder that if I ever start to let my guard down, sooner or later, the day may come when I no longer have a life to return to here.
Okay, chat. That was part 2 of my OC lore. I know it was long. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, if you want to see part 3 or see more about my OCs, drop a like and subscribe. Maybe. Perchance. But yeah, I will catch y'all in the next one.